She even gave me extra money to cover any expenses, and I accepted without a second thought. That night, for the first time, I openly mocked Jacqueline in front of my friends. Fueled by drinks, I told them how Jacqueline did everything for me, how she let me be a stay-at-home husband even though we had no kids, and how she never complained. Tim and the others laughed, egging me on, and I loved the attention. The next morning, I woke up with a hangover and a sense of guilt. Jacqueline, as usual, made me breakfast after my night out. She asked how my night was, but I gave her a vague response, avoiding details. I could see concern in her eyes, but she didn't push for more. Instead, she told me she was glad I had fun and that she loved me. The guilt I felt quickly turned to irritation, and I brushed her off. Over the next few weeks, I went out more often with friends. Jacqueline, despite growing visibly tired, continued to support me. Our conversations became brief, and the tension between us grew. I could sense her disappointment, but I ignored it, convincing myself she would never leave me. One evening, Tim and some friends came over for a movie night. Jacqueline cooked dinner for us and then retreated to the bedroom to give us space. After a few glasses of wine, the conversation shifted to relationships. Tim mentioned his girlfriend, wishing she were as devoted as Jacqueline. This led to more jokes and comments about how Jacqueline was too good for me, how I had her wrapped around my finger, and how she was such a pushover. I, again emboldened by alcohol, joined in. I mocked Jacqueline's habits, her quirks, and how she would do anything for me. I even joked that I could probably tell her to jump off a cliff and she'd ask, "How high?" The laughter from my friends made me feel powerful, even though I knew it was wrong. Jacqueline must have overheard everything, but she never brought it up. The next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened, though the hurt in her eyes was unmistakable. She kissed my forehead, told me she loved me and left for work. I felt a pang of guilt, but I quickly buried it. The breaking point came a week before the neighborhood party. Jacqueline and I had been invited to a barbecue at our neighbor's house. It was a warm, sunny day, and everyone was in good spirits. As usual, Jacqueline was the perfect wife, helping with the grill, making sure everyone had food and drinks, and being her usual kind self. At some point, the conversation shifted to relationships, and we started talking about how much effort our partners put in. I began bragging about how Jacqueline did everything for me, how she catered to my every whim, and how she was the perfect wife. My friends laughed and started making jokes about how whipped Jacqueline was and how I had her under control. Jacqueline was nearby, and I saw her listening to everything. Instead of feeling proud, I felt ashamed. But my need to impress my friends was stronger than my guilt. I laughed along and made even more jokes at Jacqueline's expense. That night when we got home, Jacqueline didn't say a word. She went straight to bed, leaving me alone in the living room. I sat there for a long time, feeling both angry and regretful. I knew I had pushed her too far, but I didn't know how to fix it. I convinced myself that everything would blow over as it always had, and that Jacqueline would forgive me like she always did. I had no idea that barbecue was the final straw for Jacqueline. The neighborhood party was the beginning of the end. It was just another gathering, something our community did regularly. We live in a close-knit area, and these parties were a chance to catch up, relax, and have fun. But that night, I made a huge mistake. The party had been organized by our neighbors, and everyone was there, enjoying themselves. Jacqueline, as usual, was manning the grill, and I was with my friends. After a few drinks, the conversation turned to our wives, and naturally, Jacqueline became the topic. My friends all knew how much Jacqueline doted on me, and they found it amusing. Someone mentioned how lucky I was to have a wife who would do anything for me. Feeling tipsy, I laughed and joked about how Jacqueline never said no, how she was always willing to do whatever I asked, and how she sometimes seemed to lack a backbone. The laughter and teasing continued, with my friends making jokes about how whipped Jacqueline was. That's when I noticed the silence. I turned and saw Jacqueline standing there, pale and expressionless. She had heard everything. Jacqueline walked over to the table where we were sitting, looked directly at me, and said we needed to talk. I was surprised but followed her. The party continued, but I could feel the eyes of everyone on us. That's when Jacqueline said she was done. At first, I thought it was a joke, but Jacqueline wasn't smiling. She said she was tired of being disrespected, both by me and by others. She told me she was leaving and that I wouldn't be coming back to our home. She said my things would be on the porch, and with that, she walked out. I stood there stunned. She walked off, leaving me standing there, stunned. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, their expressions filled with pity. They might not have heard what we said, but with the look on our faces and the way Jacqueline walked away, it was obvious something bad had happened. I hurried after her, but by the time I got home, Jacqueline was already packing up my things.